Hey, 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 welcome to the beBOLDyou podcast. The live recording is now happening. Whoa! So, this is literally a conversation that I have been wanting to have since when did you get your crown?
It was November 10th of last year.
Okay, so a year almost.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't tell you how much I was crying when I watched you receive that. I told you I was going to try not to. But it was one of the first times that I felt like I wished I was in America since moving to New Zealand. So for those who are listening who have never heard us before, or heard me before, or seen me before, my name is Cyndilu. I'm the founder of beBOLDyou, the creator of the beBOLDyou personality expression system, and I am a friend of my guest today. And my guest today is Shannah Weller, and I have literally known her whole life. And when I say her whole life, I mean literally her whole life.
Yes.
So that's why, for me, when I saw you get your crown, it was just so moving to see the woman that you had grown up to be. So thank you for being here, Shannah. Please introduce yourself a little bit more to the folks so that they can know a little more about you.
Sure. Well, my name is Shannah Weller. I'm the reigning Miss Vermont USA. I am an import specialist at Collins Aerospace, which is an aerospace and technology company. I get to work with people from all over the world and pretty much act as a liaison between the staff at the site I work for and international entities. And I focus on international trade compliance, very fast paced, very global minded. It really opens my mind to global awareness, and I absolutely love it. And I've learned so much in this field, and I'm so happy that I was able to become an import specialist. On top of that, I am a cystic fibrosis advocate. I'm a volunteer for the CF Foundation. I lost a sibling to the disease last year, and that catapulted me into becoming a CF advocate and advocating for people with the story of cystic fibrosis, but also people who have other diseases as well, other illnesses, other genetic diseases. Because when you have an experience with a family member, or if you have a disease, it opens the door to connecting with people with other diseases as well. And it connects you with people in a way that others may not be able to connect with them. On top of that, I am very much involved in my family. We're very close, as Cindy knows. And I also love to write. I'm a science fiction writer. And yeah, it's really interesting.
Right.
This year that I've had.
That's right. I read your book. It was amazing.
Yes, actually, funny story about my book, Cindy. I am going to make a new version of it. I'm going to revamp it. I'm currently working on the second installment of that book, but I'm going to go back into the first one and re-edit it and actually make it a little bit more new and improved. So I'm very excited about that.
Yeah. I found out with books, that's exactly what happens. You put it out there and then you get it and then you read it and you go, oh, it's not quite exactly where I wanted that to go. Or it's like, that's not quite what I wanted to say.
Yes.
And you just revise it and put it back out again. So it's great.
Right.
And so for those who are wanting to write and you haven't because you think it has to be perfect, it doesn't. Just do it. Get started.
Absolutely not. That's right. And I'll tell you that my story, it's been almost 10 years that I've been creating this story. There was actually a first version that I never published, and I rewrote that version. But it's very common for writers to build upon their universes, specifically in the science fiction genre. If you look at the creators of the Marvel Universe, Stan Lee and his co-writers were writing that universe for over 30 and 40 years. James Cameron, who created the Avatar series, he was writing that story and creating that universe for over, again, 20 years. So these worlds take a very long time. If you look at the Harry Potter series, it took 10, 15 years for that world to be created. So it takes a long time. It's over and over again and looking at things in a different way. And as you grow as a writer, you find new ways to make the writing and the characters and the world's your own. And that's the process that I'm going through right now.
It's kind of like life.
Yes,
As we
exactly
experience
like life.
more,
Yes,
our point of view changes, our perspective changes, and our world changes. And people are like, if you know somebody 30 years ago and then you see them now and they're completely different than they were 30 years ago when you were experiencing them, you're like, oh, I wish they'd been like that with me. But they couldn't be at that time because that was their perspective and what they had, and where they've come to now has expanded, and they can see things that they didn't understand before. And we have to
exactly.
be aware of that and be understanding one towards another, that we all grow.
Yes.
Hey, I have these 10 questions that I ask all my guests. I'm going to start with that just to kind of get to know you a little bit more, even though
Sure.
I know you quite well. I
Yes.
probably don't know all the answers to these questions. So the first question is, are you more of an introvert or more of an extrovert?
Interesting, because I'm a little bit of both. I love social environments. I love working with people. I love being around people. However, I draw my strength through being alone and having alone time and having prayer time and having me time. And that's where I draw my strength. So really, I'm actually both.
You're an outgoing introvert by the sounds, because if you draw your
Yes.
strength from being alone, then that's the introverted part. But you can be very outgoing, and
Right.
then it confuses people, right? Because they're like,
Mm-hmm.
I thought
Yeah,
you were
right.
an extrovert.
Yes.
No. What is your favorite color?
Oh my goodness. I have a couple actually. I love pink and I love blue. And those have always been my favorite colors. I'm just drawn to those colors, the variety of those colors, the versatility of those colors too. And you can see in my wardrobe, most of my clothes are either pink or blue, or my pictures. A lot of pink, a lot of blue. So those two colors, specifically
And when you put those
turquoise
two
and
colors together, you get purple, which is my favorite, or lavender.
exact. Hey, I'm wearing purple right now.
That's right. Very good. So you talked a little bit about getting your energy from being alone, but what does energize you? Like, what are the activities that energize you?
Being with my family, actually. I know I kind of just said not being around people gives me energy, but they're an exception. Definitely being encouraged by them and being around them. You know, we draw on each other for that strength. Also, motivation from thinking about my sister. A lot of my decisions, a lot of where I am today is because of my sister Jana. She inspired me to pursue all of the things that I'm pursuing right now. And I would not be here today without her words, without her encouragement. I would say memories of her
Mm.
motivate me and energize me.
She is one of the most special people who have ever lived on this planet, I have
Yes.
to say. You know, my husband, when he first met her, I don't think you even know the story. So we're driving down to Camilla's graduation from university and college, y'all call it in America. I
Yes.
call it uni here.
Yeah.
I'm so Kiwi now. So anyway, she's in the back seat, and next thing I know, she's like prophesying over Robin. It
Yes.
was awesome. And she was just speaking life into him and everything. And so now when he's asking me now, who was that? You know, who, when I start talking
Yes.
about you and I'm like, you know, her sister, she spoke over you. She was in the back seat, you know, the backseat prophet. The backseat prophet.
Yes.
So she's known to my husband as the backseat prophet.
That's great.
And yeah, she just really blessed. And I love that there's a message that people can go watch that's on YouTube too, that was so compelling. And I can put that in the comments later if people want to go watch it. But
Yes.
yeah, talk about suffering and having Christ on you while you're going through it. It's like,
I know
it like made everything that I was going through like, okay, this is not any, I can do this.
Yes.
I can do this.
And those words of hers were actually part of what inspired me to have sort of the platform that I do. And the core of my platform is taking difficult circumstances and turning them into something good, making them into a positive outlet, and understanding that the things that we go through shape and mold us into the person we are supposed to be, as long as we allow them to do that. And Jana was a perfect testament to that idea and to that platform. And that's one of the reasons she's so heavily involved and heavily themed in my reign, in my life, in everything that I do.
Yep, she definitely, that girl.
She was amazing. She was incredible.
So what is the most, I know some of the places that I'm just immediately thinking on this next question where Jana went with all that. So what's the most exotic place that you've been?
Probably Mexico. We did a missions trip together to Nuevo León, Mexico, and we helped build churches. We held services. We did a lot of volunteer work, and it was an incredible, incredible experience. We worked with the children. We were able to provide food and water to certain villages, and encouragement and uplift, and just to uplift the people of the village, because, you know, it wasn't vacation Mexico. It wasn't the Mexico you see on movies. It was the villages. It was the areas in which people were living very simple lives, very minimalistic lives, and we were able to go in there and make a real difference, and they were very appreciative, and I'll never forget it. The children were so cute. They were so sweet, and we would lead Sunday services for the children and do dances with them, and it was one of my most cherished memories.
Oh my gosh, it had to have been amazing, and to be there with Jana would have just been amazing. What phrase or quote encourages you the most? I know everybody gets stuck on this one.
It's because there's so many.
I'm almost thinking I need to start giving this particular question ahead of time, but then it's not the fun. It's not the same, you know, you gotta.
Probably something my mother told me, and that was to not allow people to assassinate your character. And what she means by that is not to allow the negative words people say to you or the negative labels people put on you to dictate your decisions and your inner strength, and to know who you are, so that when people do try to use those negative labels against you, you are unfazed by that. You are able to just let it roll off your back like water on a duck's wing. That's exactly what she would say. So she gave me a little bit of that imagery, and just let it roll off your back. Don't allow it to faze you. And I know that's not really a quote, but it's just advice that she gave me. You know how wise my mother is.
It's a phrase. It's a phrase.
Exactly.
It's a phrase. Don't let it. Yeah, exactly. And I would say that one took me a long time, because so many of us are worried about what people think about us.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about that a little bit more later, because I want to go somewhere with that one. Try to remember it. I'm going to try to remember that. And if I forget it, well, I'll have to come back again. What's been your favorite age?
Cindy, oh my goodness. I love these questions. I would say now. To be honest, I love where I'm at. I love my job. I love my title. I love the difference I'm making in people's lives. And I'm not trying to sound, haughty or big-headed, but, when young girls message you and say, you are an inspiration to me, you changed my mind about something, that does something to you. It makes you want to engage with them more, inspire them even more, and to become a better person yourself. And I've grown so much, even just over this last year. And it's been an incredible, incredible journey. So I would say 24, perpetually 24.
I love it. And what book are you reading now? You write books. Do you read them?
Yes, I do. I'm not really reading anything right now, but the last book I read was in the middle of reading C.S. Lewis's, one of his sci-fi books. And then I was dabbling kind of in the Chronicles of Narnia again, because I hadn't read those books in a long time. And as a writer, you do want to read other people's writing because it inspires you. It broadens your perspective as a writer. And to me, he's one of the greatest authors in American history. I absolutely love his writing.
Absolutely. Chronicles of Narnia, my kids' favorite. I read all of them to my kids when they were growing up.
Yes, my mother did too. She read them to us as well.
Yeah. Actually, your mother's influence on me is probably why I read them to my kids.
Mm-hmm.
Actually. Actually. So, do you create to live or live to create?
Can I say both?
Sure. Of course.
For me, it's a cycle. It's creating something to live, but that is how I live, is as a creator, especially somebody who loves the arts. I love to dance, I love to write, and creativity and art feed into my life. So for me, it's kind of it's a cycle. It's a circle. It's a circle of creation.
I love that answer. I think we're similar in that aaspect. It's kind of like, how can you not create and how can you not live?
Right.
Yeah. While you're creating, because it's both.
It's really interesting. It's something within you that just wants to create. At least for me, when I first started writing, there were these ideas in my head I just had to get out. It was almost compulsive. Like I had to write my ideas and the images I saw in my head on paper, but on the computer, of course. But I had to get it out, and it was this drive for me.
Yeah, I think that if we're a natural creator, and I think we all are, it's just finding that medium that we create through. Because I think some people create through their cooking.
Absolutely.
Right? Like that's so not me. But there are people who do. Not me. Except that I can't say that. I don't want to spend my time cooking now. But when my kids were little, I would tell them, you enjoy this meal because if you like the taste of it, really, really enjoy it because you're never getting it again because I don't remember what I put in it. Yes. And if you like something really a lot, you better tell me right away so I can write it down.
Yes.
So they have like one recipe that they all have. They all still make it. And it's like, I just didn't do many recipes, but that particular one meal they all love, and it's a treat meal, and they just still buy the pieces of it and give it to each other for Christmas. I mean, it's like crazy. This meal has lived on. So yes. So I guess I did create a little bit with my cooking, but yeah, no, cooking is not my area. Mm-hmm. But there's some people that they just love it.
Right.
Okay. And now name the person who's had the most influence on you, and they can be dead or alive.
Well, it's interesting you asked that question because my mother recently held a workshop. She's working on her doctorate right now, and one of the requirements was to have a workshop concerning the research that she's putting into the doctorate. And she's focusing on women in the community and the needs of women in our community. And I was a part of the workshop, and she asked, who was a mentor to you as a woman? And of course, I said her. Jan is in there too. I would say both of them equally because there were things that Jana mentored me for, and then there were things that my mother mentored me for. But my mother was definitely a mentor to me all throughout my life. She saw talents and skills in me and passions in me that I hadn't realized yet as a little girl. And she helped hone in on those skills, on those passions. Because as a child, I'm not really thinking about the fact that I could potentially be a great speaker or a great dancer or a great writer. And she did see those things. And so she would give me the tools to expound upon those passions and those skills. And she took the time to groom and to speak life into me. And I'm forever grateful for her doing that. It's really interesting. She's been coming up more in my conversations, and just the fact that she was my mentor. And I know that people's mothers are their mentor often, but my mother's special, and she's just incredible. There's no other mother like her. So
I have to agree.
Yes.
Your mom is one of my most special friends in my life, actually, probably the most special friend in my life. So, being involved with your family over the years has been such an honor, but also just such a grounding place for me, a place to see how family can be connected. We're not real connected in our family. I'm more connected with my kids than I am with my brother and my parents or anything. Just we were somewhat connected, but not like you guys. Like you guys, I watch your family and you guys are like, it's family.
Yes,
like you move together like this. You don't, there's not, So thank you for, letting me ride along on the journey. I love seeing the pictures of your family, and there's your dad, the one white person, and the Cyndilu. And the rest of them are all people of color. But there's the two of us, and it's quite funny. And before your dad came along, there was me in those pictures.
That's right.
I remember a Christmas photo with your mom's family way before you existed, and there's the family, and then there's me, and I've got my like red bow in my hair, and it was just amazing. It was quite funny. I don't think you were here yet, but you might have been, but you would have been really little. So, but it was quite, I can't remember, but anyway, there's all these black folk, and then there's me with my little red bow and my white face. So yeah, it's quite amazing. Yeah, it was a great photo. I think it was Bernadette's family and your grandma and your mom.
Yes.
And me.
That makes sense.
And me. It was so funny. So the last question of the 10 is, what one word describes you best?
Oh, no. Okay.
Oh, yes.
Okay, I'll try to pick one this time. This question always... a million things always goes through my mind. Caring.
Oh, I like that.
That one I hear very often when people describe me. Other people often say that about me. And I do take pride in my ability to empathize and to help those in need in any way that I can. And it's something that's extremely close to my heart. I'm very passionate about working with others, specifically anybody who feels marginalized, anyone who feels overlooked or devalued. I can't help myself but to be an encouragement and to discern pivotal moments within conversation to speak life into somebody. And that's something that happens very often when you're a title holder. Little girls will constantly come up to you or message you over social media and say, what is it like to be a title holder? What is it like to have the sash and crown? What is it like to be a public figure? What is it like to be as confident as you are? And those are the moments that you can take to say, I'm a proud, powerful, beautiful woman just like yourself. And I am a special creature made beautifully and wonderfully that has something to say, and I have the power to say it. And they just love it. And it's about them, to be honest. It's about others. The positions we have really are not about ourselves. It's about others, and it's about making a difference in other people's lives, and then them paying it forward, and also you paying it forward. I've had women speak into my life exactly like that, and when I got into the positions that I have, I promised myself that I would be like them. I would take a young girl's hand and say, "You've got this. You have the potential. Now go and get it," because that's what was said to me.
Yeah, girl. All right. So we're going to go into a little more about answering those questions that you've just now brought up. How does that feel? And how do you, all of those things. So today's broadcast, as always right now, is sponsored by my Becoming Bold You book. So if anybody wants to get that, all they have to do is go to beBOLDyou.com/BBY book. And it's very interesting that you say, that we're all unique and that that you're beautiful and you're, created. And that's the whole thing about this book, is that we get to become anything we want to become.
Right.
That we have personality traits within us, sure, that, you know, are more comfortable for us. But that doesn't mean that we can't see some other personality trait and decide that we want to put that on and wear that for the time that we're in, the season that we're in. Different seasons, you're going to become different people. And
Right.
no matter if that's a quiet person or a really loud person, you can be bold in that either way. So that is my commercial in the middle. You like it? Okay.
I love it.
So let's talk about your becoming Miss Vermont USA. I wasn't sure how much we could talk about it, but you've opened the door. So I'm going there because I mean, I watched it and I cried. Okay.
Oh, yes.
I knew what that meant to your mom and dad, I think,
Yes,
partly why I
yes.
cried, right? And I wanted to be there because literally I saw you born. Like,
Yes.
it wasn't just like birthed into the world. Like, when I say her whole life at the beginning of the show, I meant
right.
her whole life. Like,
Yes.
I was Jana's coach
That's
for
right.
your birth.
Mhm.
So Jana and I were there, and I was watching Jana, and I had one weekend that you could be born that I had open in my schedule. Even back then, I was like, okay, gotta have her this weekend because this is what I've got. And she's like, okay. And but we did. You did well. You arrived, and it was amazing. So I knew, and also knowing that, you know, Jana had passed and that she had encouraged you. I knew she had encouraged you to go ahead and go for your dreams because she did that to everybody. She encouraged us all to go for our dreams and to never give up on life, no matter what we were going through. And she did that while she couldn't breathe.
Yes.
So to watch you walk across the stage and get that crown and see you looking so beautiful and so much like your mama and like your dad at the same time, but definitely like your mama. There was just in that moment, you just looked like mama. And my heart was full. How did it feel for you though? Like, what were the emotions? I see emotions on your face, but what were the thoughts and the going through your mind?
Shock. To be honest, I prepared so intensely. I worked so hard for it, but I honestly felt that another girl was going to take the crown. And I was okay with it, actually, by that point. My goal was top 5. That was my goal. So when I placed, I was happy. You know, I was going into the final question completely relaxed because I had made my goal. I achieved my goal. And when the 4th runner-up was called and it wasn't me, I was like, oh, okay, that's nice. The 3rd runner-up was called and it wasn't me. I was like, oh, great, fun. I'll be either 2nd or 1st. The 2nd runner-up is called. And actually, if you look at the video, when the 2nd runner-up is called, because I was able to receive the filmed version of the pageant, when the 2nd runner-up was called, I thought they were going to call me because I was number 20 and she was number 12. And so that first syllable, I thought it was me. So in the video, I kind of do this.
I saw that.
Oh, okay, you did? I do this like, oh. And then I realized it wasn't me. And at that point, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm either 1st runner-up or I'm going to be crowned. And my 1st runner-up and I were holding hands, and she's so beautiful. All the girls were so beautiful, genuine, fantastic, smart, well-spoken. And my 1st runner-up was exactly those wonderful traits. And we're holding hands, and we are literally saying to each other, it's going to be you. We both are saying that to each other. I was like, you're going to take it. And she goes, you're going to take it. And we were just encouraging each other, uplifting each other, and being sisters in that moment. And then she was called as 1st runner-up. And that's why I had that look of shock on my face. I was like, what? And when you're crowned, you feel like you're floating. It's this out-of-body experience that you have because the moment you've been imagining for months or however long it's been, some girls wait years before their crowning moment. And that's why they look so shocked and so surprised and happily surprised. And that's why you have that famous crowning moment look, and you're like, yeah. And it's because it's truly an incredible feeling to live out the moment you've been imagining for however long it's been. And I felt like I was floating for the rest of the night into the next day. And it's almost like you have to come down off of that feeling. And the whole experience is wonderful. The preparation, the build-up, the climax of being crowned, and then coming down and realizing it's real, and realizing you have this platform to speak into people's lives. It's really incredible the response I get when I say to people, I'm Miss Vermont USA. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's really crazy, that's amazing. And the doors that have been opened for me because of this title has been truly tremendous. It's been phenomenal this year. And as interesting as it sounds, I'm actually looking forward to crowning another girl, because she'll have that moment. I'll be able to share in that moment with her, and she will have her own moment of feeling like she's floating and like she's flying, and realizing that her hard work has paid off.
And they're preparing for that now.
Yes, they are. Yes.
So, and I don't think that people realize like what beauty pageants really are all about. I think that a lot of people think that they're just, pretty faces.
No.
It's so much more. Can you just tell us a little bit more about like what it is?
Absolutely. I love having this discussion. Pageantry has changed so much over the years. It's absolutely fantastic. It's beautiful how we are focusing now way more on girls' power, their speaking, the contributions they make in their society, in their culture, in their community and their culture, who they are as people. It's not about choosing a specific girl anymore, and it's not about who has a specific look. It's about whichever girl the judges feel is going to represent the title the best, and who they feel is going to make the most impact in their society. It's about the girl who's genuine, the girl who truly has a passion that she wants to explore through the title and raise awareness for. Platforms are a major part of pageantry now. It's about how well you convey your ideas and who you are, and celebrating who you are, and encouraging others to celebrate who they are.
Mm-hmm.
That's what pageantry is about now. It's not about putting the crown on a girl who has a specific look. It truly, if you look at our reigning Miss USA, our reigning Miss Universe, these women are absolutely beautiful in their own unique beauty. Their beauty is theirs. It's not anybody else's. And that's what pageantry is celebrating now, particularly the Miss Universe organization, which focuses on inclusivity and diversity. And it's the reason why I love this organization, because they celebrate the girls on the individual level.
Yeah, that's amazing. It wasn't until I came to New Zealand, it's going to be strange, but that I really kind of understood pageantry a little bit more. And it was through a little tiny, I can't even remember what it's called, but it's basically a little pageant that happens at the town fair, like the county fair, right? Yes. So it's the county fair crowned whatever. Mm-hmm. And I can't remember what her name is, but what it is here. But anyway, I kind of, because it's such a small area, there's not a lot of news. Okay, right. So there's not a lot happening in the world, in our world here in New Zealand. So they talk a lot about the process of the pageantry, the coming together, the doing the volunteer work. So like they have 2 or 3 weeks leading up to it. That's part of their judging. That's all how they volunteer, how they interact, how they get to know one another, how they communicate with each other, how they grow in relationship one to another.
Correct.
And I was like, what? It just didn't dawn on me that all of that was taken into the pageantry.
Yeah.
So when you did yours, I knew all of that, and I had all of that in there, and I was like, yes, go girl, go girl. And I knew that you would be talking about Jana and about CF and about living with chronic illnesses, diseases, and as someone who also has experienced that, my daughter had a kidney transplant when she was 23, I think she was,
Right.
so, and I had Lyme, and
Right.
I have breathing issues now and heart issues now and all of that. And Robin has Parkinson's, and there's just a lot in our family. And my mother-in-law and my first husband's mother had paralysis, and so
Wow.
just dealing with a lot of those illnesses and walking people through that process and through the process of even cancer. I'm thinking of my brother and walking him through his cancer treatments. And how do you always make something positive out of the negatives that are happening in your life? Because I find that for us, that if we can do that, we actually all grow stronger, even though we might be looked at as being in a weaker space.
Correct.
Because of the illnesses. We actually all gain strength through journeying through that.
Yes.
And I'd say Jana definitely showed that in the way that she lived her life.
That was her entire life.
Yeah, it really was.
Yes.
It really was. I'm telling, that girl was so strong. And
oh, I know it.
I remember doing PTs on her and just,
yes.
doing the whole thing. And so now when I talk to people that have CF, and I tell them I've done PT, oh, you're part of us. Yes. Right? Just even that brings me into understanding their illness and understanding what they're going through, and they receive you in. And when you're received in, that's when you can make the difference in life.
Yes.
So where have doors opened for you that have allowed you to share that in this lovely having your crown? And
yes, it's more that, I've made really wonderful connections, but the crown also gives you a level of confidence in which you are able to be more outgoing and reaching out to people. So after I was crowned, I realized my potential. I realized I have this level of confidence within me, and I decided to become a board member of Tomorrow's Leaders, which is a CF Foundation. Yes, the CF Foundation's young professional organization. And we plan events for people with CF. I have attended Dancing with CF through my title. I attended as a dancer as Miss Vermont USA. And Dancing with CF focuses on dance techniques that are adaptive to people with CF. And so they have dance classes that enable people with CF to sit, or if they're in a wheelchair, they are still able to do the moves. And they have two teachers, one that does the one that dances standing up and the regular movements, and then they have another teacher that instructs with the adaptive movements. Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. I recently had an interview with Runway of Dreams, and I'm very passionate about that organization as well because my platform also extends into mental and physical diseases and challenges, which is the reason I created my blog Uniquely Me, which celebrates confidence building in women with mental and physical differences. So I was interviewed by them, and my title opened that door as well. And they're a very renowned organization, really incredible organization that makes adaptive clothing for people with mental and physical differences. And they have a section in New York Fashion Week, and they have all different types of models. And it's a beautiful organization. And that's one of the more significant connections I've made through my title. And I'm very excited about it. I'm very excited about where I'm going and the connections I've made.
I was going to say, your title comes to an end in about a month.
Yes.
But the doors that have been opened are lifelong.
Absolutely. Yes.
So where do you see your next big impact to be?
Yes. So real quick, I just want to say that the pageant is in March. So I will be giving up my title in March.
Oh, so you've got it longer because
of COVID.
Wow. Interesting.
Yes. It's been a long reign, but it's been wonderful. Yeah. I'm glad. I'm not glad that COVID hit, but I am glad.
No, absolutely.
Right.
But
exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
So, and Miss Vermont Miss USA, has that happened, or is that
No,
happening
that
soon?
is happening in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, so you're
Yes.
preparing for that now.
Very much so.
What?
Have been. You start preparing almost immediately after you're crowned at the state level. You start preparing immediately. But my next big project is becoming a pageant coach. I've seen firsthand
Okay.
the difference you can make in young women's lives becoming a pageant coach, because not only do you prepare the young ladies for pageantry, you can also prepare them for life. And it's a major way to encourage them and to speak life into them and help them understand the skills and the strengths that they may not see, and to build upon those. And I'm very much looking forward to becoming a pageant coach, speaking into girls' lives, helping them have their fantastic and wonderful and life-changing moment of being crowned. And even if they don't walk away with a crown, understanding that it's not the end. You never walk away from pageantry empty-handed. You can always learn something. And that's what I want to instill in the next generation of women. On top of that, I want to expand upon my blog and make it bigger. It's fairly new, it's in its infancy, but I want to do more with it. My blog isn't just about my reign, my title. In fact, I do it more as me, because I won't always have the title, but I do want to have my blog for years to come, and focusing on my career as well, getting a degree in global relations and getting my customs broker's license. Very much looking forward to what's in store. And I know that I'm going to do great things. I hope that doesn't sound like haughty or anything, but I just believe in myself, and I believe in the path that I'm on, and what is ahead of me.
Which is so exciting and refreshing to hear in your generation, because I feel like there's a lot of despair. I feel like there's a lot of
Right.
people your age. How old are you now? 30,
24.
20, 24. I'm trying to remember, because it's like Camilla's 31, gonna be 31 this year. It's like, oh my gosh. So
Yeah, Jana was 31. 30.
Yeah,
Jana
yeah,
was 30. Yeah.
30. Yeah. So it's 24. So you haven't even got the quarter of a century coming up. Quarter of a century. Woo-hoo. But there's just a lot of feeling like there's hopelessness, like the world is upside down and backwards and not moving the way that they would like to see it going, especially I think, with the racism and
Correct.
everything that's happening in America right now. There's a lot of dissension. How do you see yourself as a voice to kind of calm that down and to raise up hope in your generation?
I would say sharing my story and sharing my perspective, and also encouraging others to share their perspective and their stories, because there's always a silver lining in the world we live in, the things that we are experiencing. The world has seen atrocities before and difficult times before, and we pull together and we make it. We always find a way to make things better, to survive. And I believe that's going to be the case in terms of a pandemic as well. I have seen people pull together in phenomenal ways. Vermont has some of the lowest numbers in the country right now. And it's because we care for each other. We encourage each other to be as healthy as we possibly can. We care for each other's health, and we uplift one another. That's how we keep optimism, is reminding each other that this is not the end. There is light at the end of the tunnel, and that we do have a future, because life goes on. We will go on. We always have. And that's my philosophy on difficult circumstances. You will always come through. Things are temporary. Nothing is permanent, especially when it comes to situations like the one we are in now. We'll always come out of it at some point, in some way, in some fashion, and we will come out of it stronger, because that's been the history of the human race. We've always risen above our trauma, our atrocities, and the difficult things that we go through.
And what we focus on, if what we focus on grows, which is true, like as we focus on more positivity will be the thing that we all have. So I would encourage everyone to definitely find those places of positivity, find those places where you can encourage somebody else, find those places where you can actually embrace someone who's going through something that you maybe haven't understood, whether it's pandemic or whether it's, illness related or mental illness related or, mental struggles. There is a world that's waiting for encouragement by you. And I this year, I have finally understood that it is impossible for me to reach every single person on the planet.
Right.
There's just too many. The energy to reach everyone isn't there. But there's an energy that I carry that reaches those who are meant to be reached by me.
Right. Yes.
And if I don't step into that energy, the bringing that positive encouragement to people, those people don't get that.
Right.
And I was like, "Ooh." and my podcast is part of that, bringing that encouragement and letting people know that there is a journey. This year's thing is all about the journeys that people are going through and that they've gone through in order to get to where they are, and that they're going to continue to go forward. And your journey really came with the loss of a sister.
Right.
Encouraged you, which seems crazy that a death would actually propel you forward. But I hear that a lot on I listen to The Voice and American Idol and all these things. It's often the death of somebody that propels another person to like step into their destiny and all that they're called to do to encourage the world. How has the loss of Jannah not only done that for you, but how has it helped you to encourage others who are going through that same kind of loss?
Wow, yes. There was a woman I connected with, and her husband was battling cancer. And because we both had experience with somebody battling a disease, we were able to connect. We shared tears, we shared laughter. And in that moment, we were able to encourage one another and uplift one another. That's how I'm able to spread Jannah's positivity to others. Through that connection, through finding common ground and building upon that. Because we both walked away feeling refreshed and strengthened, because there's something strengthening about when someone else understands what you're going through, when someone else is able to connect with you on a level in which you feel very lonely on, and you realize you're not alone. And Jannah's story has helped me reach people and help them understand they are not alone. When you go through something as difficult as a disease, or a struggle as difficult as a mental illness or a mental challenge, something that makes you feel out of place or unique or set apart, it can be very lonely. It can feel lonely. And the power of togetherness conquers almost anything. And it's incredible when we have a connection with people. See, I believe in intervention. And what I mean is when you speak life into somebody and you intervene in a moment, that can be life changing. It can completely change their path, their way of thinking into something better. And that, I believe, is what Jannah has imparted into me and how her story has allowed me to encourage others.
So beautiful. Okay, we only have a few minutes left. It's been almost an hour. It's been 50 minutes or so. I think we were a few minutes late. So 49 minutes, it says. What would you say to encourage that young lady who's thinking, I'd like to be in pageantry, but I don't want to have the rejection, the feeling of being rejected or the feeling of not winning and then I'm not good enough?
Yes, that is a struggle. I will be honest, yes. But the way you combat that is understanding why you want the crown and why you are going into pageantry. if that is a solid reason, I don't want to say that not winning won't phase you, because it will, but you can come back stronger. Miss USA 2016, Shannah Barber, competed at her state pageant multiple times, years. I think she competed 6 times before she won. And she kept coming back. She kept evaluating what could she do better? How can she expand upon who she is? Why did she want the crown? And those are the reasons and the thoughts that are going to carry you through battling the feeling of rejection, because you will have it at some point if you don't win or if you don't place. But what my sister Jana said to me when she encouraged me to stay in pageantry was not to allow the feelings I was feeling at a certain moment to dictate my decisions and to dictate how I was going to follow that dream. And that's what I would say to a young woman is, if you are not crowned, if you don't place, it's not the end. It's actually the beginning. And most of the time, it's not the young lady's fault. Most of the time, it could just be timing. It could just be the judges are looking for a particular type of young lady at that time, not necessarily looks wise, but in terms of branding. And it could be that the young lady doesn't understand why she wants the crown yet. And if you don't know why you want the crown, do not enter pageantry. Always understand your why. That will carry you through those shaky and rocky feelings and help you understand how can you make the difference that you want to.
That's awesome. I have one more thing around this topic, which is going back to the first half when we were talking about feeling comfortable with people saying negative things about you and not letting that take you on.
Yes.
So it was this a couple years ago now, and I've said this before on my podcast, that I realized I don't go to people's houses wanting to go into their bedroom and look in their underwear drawer. Right? That's just not something that I do. Because why? Because their underwear drawer is none of my business.
Right.
So I finally realized that anything anybody says about me is equivalent to their underwear drawer.
Yes.
It's none of my business.
Mm-hmm.
And to get to that point where you realize you can just put it in the underwear drawer and shut the drawer and you don't have to worry about it. It's really none of your business, that you don't have to think about it, that it doesn't have to become a part of how you're guiding or directing your life. I mean, I spent a few years here when I was getting comfortable with being here and being in a new place, and people were saying things because we were going through a lot. My husband had Parkinson's, I had a head injury, and I didn't even know that I wasn't making sense. But so they were concerned that my husband wasn't being taken care of, that he didn't have what he needed. And there was things that were said, right, by people. And I let what they say start to direct my emotions and how I reacted to what was happening. And it really kind of blew up on us. We got past it, right? Because we worked it out, because we confronted, we took it on and we talked it through. But it wasn't until I got to the point where what they said was like that underwear drawer, that I didn't have to even think about it, that I got freedom, right? Because we let them know how we felt and we confronted it, but that didn't actually bring healing to my heart. It was being able to let go and release that. So I'm sure in pageantry, you've got the negative Nellies and the people that are saying bad things and that are commenting and saying you should never have had the crown or blah, blah, blah. And how do you deal with that?
Yes. When I first started to prepare for Miss Vermont USA, there were people who did not believe that I would win. There are people who told me I didn't have what it takes. They made it clear that they didn't think a girl who looked like me would win a Vermont pageant. And the way that I dealt with that was I just let them think what they wanted to think, because I knew in my heart who I was and who I am, and that I did have what it takes to represent the title well, and to represent myself well, and to represent my sister well. And I knew who I was enough to understand that what they had to say didn't need to affect me. When people say something negative to you, it takes, 5 seconds out of your day for them to say something negative, or a minute. Do you have to allow that 5 seconds, 1 minute, whatever it is, to dictate the other hours left in the day that you could use to build upon yourself and to continue to work at achieving your dreams? And so, is what they are saying worth the thoughts that you have after they say it? Is it worth the self-doubt that it may cause? And I believe the answer is no, especially if you know who you are.
Yep. Thank you so much. I totally agree. So y'all just put that into the underwear drawer and forget it. It works, right? It's none of your business. Just none of it. It's like none of other people's opinions of us is none of our business. It's none ya. So I just none ya it. All right. Well, thank you again so very much for doing this for me. And I'm so glad we got to catch up and I got to learn a little more about how your pageantry journey was. And it was all that I imagined it would be.
Yes.
I know your sister Jana well, and I know your mom and your whole family, and please send my love to them and give them big hugs, and especially that little nephew of yours, adorable.
Yes.
So I was hoping to be there this year to give them all hugs, but I didn't quite make it.
Yes, I understand.
The world had other plans.
Mm-hmm.
So for my listeners, do you want to say anything, one last thing to my listeners?
Yes. Find out who you are. Find your identity in the things that are absolutely you. If you are an artist, that's where you find your identity. If you are a singer, that's where you find your identity. A writer, somebody who's spiritual, somebody who is an encourager. Things that are core values to who you are, that's where you find who you are and your identity. And when you understand who you are, nothing else can shake you. There may be times where people will say certain things about you, and they may not be the nicest things, but when you understand your core values, you can rise from that. And when you do, you can make such a difference in the world. And you have the ability to make a difference. Don't ever think that you're somebody who's insignificant, because it's not true. Everyone has value. So, always believe in yourself and know that you have the power to make change.
Yes. Well, I want to thank you. If anyone wants to connect with Shannah as Miss Vermont USA, you can go to her Miss Vermont USA Facebook page. There is also in the description, the link for the Instagram if you want to follow her on Instagram, Shannah Weller. Thanks again so much for being here. And to my listeners who are listening on the podcast, thank you so much for listening in. This was recorded live on Facebook, so you can go over and watch the video if you want. And remember to always live your life out loud and be bold you.
Thank you.